Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually we're tackling, these giant topics like AI or geopolitics, but today we are zooming right in, hyper-focused on the beautiful and sometimes brutal world of football tactics.
Hmm.
And we're doing something, well, a bit audacious. We are drawing up the literal point-by-point blueprint for an upset.
And not just any upset. We're looking at how Fulham, at home, at Craven Cottage, can actually beat the reigning champions of everything, Manchester City.
Right.
We've got a mountain of source material here, tactical analyses, statistical breakdowns that suggest this isn't just, a fantasy, it's a real, quantifiable possibility.
That's the key word, isn't it? Quantifiable. Because let's be honest, talking about beating City usually feels like wishful thinking.
It does.
But this time, there's a central, tangible variable that has completely changed the equation. Manchester City are traveling to West London without their absolute linchpin. Their irreplaceable midfielder, Rodri.
And Rodri is so much more than a midfielder. He's the structural integrity of that whole Guardiola system. He's the anchor, the insurance policy, the heartbeat.
So our mission today is to unpack all this source material, ignore the history of this fixture for a moment, and just focus on the hard numbers and the detailed strategy.
Exactly. We want to see if this is a genuine tactical reality that Marco Silva and Fulham can exploit, because if they don't, it won't be because they didn't have the map. We're basically laying out the blueprint for you.
Okay, let's start right there with that seismic shift you mentioned, the Rodri effect. I've seen some of these stats and they sound so catastrophic. They almost defy belief for a team of this quality.
They are brutally honest.
Yeah.
And they show a systemic reliance that's frankly unmatched in top-tier football. Get this. Since Rodri joined City back in 2019, their overall win rate with him in the side is a massive 74%.
74%. I mean, that's the definition of dominance.
It is. It shows how perfectly the system just hums along when he's there.
And when you take him out, when you remove that central pivot, what does the data say then?
Well, when Rodri's absent, that win rate absolutely plummets. It falls all the way down to 59%.
Wow.
No. Look, 59% is still an excellent win rate for almost any other club in Europe. But for City, that is a massive, massive drop-off. It just shows the entire structure is thrown out of balance when he's missing.
That's the overall picture. But if we zoom in on the Premier League, where the pressure is just immense and the margins are so thin, the story goes from a drop-off to a genuine vulnerability.
This is where it becomes undeniable. The source material calls it a structural weakness. Since Rodri debuted, City have lost 7 Premier League matches in the 21 games he hasn't featured in.
7 in 21.
Do the math. Their Premier League loss rate without him is a staggering 33%.
1 in every 3 Premier League games. That is just, it's an almost unfathomable statistic for a club like this.
Precisely.
Huh.
And for some context, City lost just 5 Premier League matches all last season, across 38 games
Yeah.
when Rodri was playing.
So you go from losing, 13% of your games to 33% just by taking out one guy?
One single player. So the natural question is, why? This is Manchester City. They've got world-class players like Kovacic or Bernardo Silva who could slot in there.
Right. Why can't they just plug that hole? Is it a skill gap or something else?
It's a structural discipline gap. It's both, but mainly that. See, Rodri provides 3 critical functions that almost no one else can do all at once. First, the positioning to cover the center backs. Second, breaking lines with his passing. And third, the bit everyone overlooks, tactical fouling.
Okay, let's stay on that tactical fouling idea for a second, because that's the dark art that makes Guardiola's high defensive line even work.
It's the insurance policy. When City pushes forward and loses the ball, the opposition's first thought is a fast break.
Of course.
Rodri's job, with his incredible reading of the game, is to take the yellow card, to make that small, strategic foul 30 or 40 yards from goal that just kills the transition stone dead.
And that gives everyone time to get back into shape.
The entire back four gets to reset. Without him, his replacements. They just don't have the discipline to commit that foul quickly, or maybe they're a step too slow to even get there. And suddenly the center backs are facing a 2v2.
So when that screen is gone, the vulnerability isn't just a theory. It becomes the source material calls it the counterattack highway.
It's the perfect description. I mean, Jamie Carragher observed that the only real ways to hurt City are set pieces and counters. And the data this season confirms it. Opponents are having a lot of success with counters, especially when Rodri is out.
Give us the big stat, the one that really quantifies this highway.
This is the one that should worry every City fan. This season, they have conceded 34 shots from fast breaks.
34.
That's more than any other top 6 club. In fact, only 3 other teams in the entire league have allowed more. For a team that has like 70% of the ball, it's just completely unsustainable.
And we have to stress how big a change this is. Last season, that historic, perfect City side, they didn't concede a single Premier League goal on the counterattack.
Not one.
Not one goal. And now they're one of the most exposed teams in the league.
It tells you the vulnerability is system-wide. It's not just one player making a mistake. The whole high line with Diaz and Gvardiol is being exposed to pace because the ball is getting through that central channel way too easily.
And you have to layer on top of the City's general away form this season, which just compounds the problem. I mean, they look strangely mortal on the road.
Their record is what, 2 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses in 6 away games? This is not the invincible City of old. The conditions.
Yeah.
They're set for Fulham to use this blueprint.
So let's get into that. The tangible plan. Marco Silva's strategy. The sources outline a very clear 4-point tactical blueprint for the upset.
Exactly. And it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about executing what Fulham already do well, but aiming it directly at City's current weaknesses.
Okay, point 1. It feels a bit counterintuitive for a team trying to win. Sit deep and stay compact.
This is all about tactical intelligence. Fulham has to use a compact mid-block. So you're not defending on the edge of your own box. You're defending aggressively around the halfway line.
Forcing City wide, letting them have the ball in areas where they can't really hurt you.
Yes, and crucially, you have to accept that they'll have the ball. Let City have their 65% possession. Let them pass it between the center backs all day.
The goal is to spring the trap.
Exactly. You want to spring the trap when their fullbacks and midfielders have pushed forward, because that's when the space opens up behind them. Which brings us to point 2, the most explosive part of the blueprint. Transition fast.
And this is where Fulham's specific players come in. You're talking about runners like Alex Iwobi and Harry Wilson.
They are the designated strikers for this plan. They're quick, they're direct, and they are so comfortable carrying the ball 40, 50 yards into that empty central space.
The space Rodri would normally be patrolling.
The exact space. Without him as that firewall, the gap between City's center backs and their deepest midfielder is suddenly massive. Wow. And that's when Diaz and Gvardiol get exposed to these really uncomfortable 1v1 duels against pace.
And Fulham already has proof this can work. The sources point to the fact they created 2.60 expected goals XG against City at the Etihad earlier this season.
That number is just staggering. For anyone who doesn't follow XG, 2.60 means the chances they created were good enough that they should have scored 2, maybe even 3 goals.
Wow.
That's one of the highest XG figures a Guardiola side has conceded in the Premier League, ever. It proves the plan can work even when Rodri's there. So without him, it should be even more potent.
And there was that one moment that perfectly summed it all up, right?
Oh yeah, the moment Adama Traore, with just raw pace, nutmegged Mateo Kovacic, who was trying to play the Rodri role, and then beat Kyle Walker for pace and was clean through on goal.
Just blew past him.
Blew past him. Kovacic is scrambling, trying to make the tactical foul Rodri would make. But he's too late. The entire midfield screen is bypassed. That single moment is the proof of concept for this whole blueprint.
Okay, let's move to point 3. The other vulnerability you mentioned earlier, target set pieces.
This is a huge, sudden opportunity for Fulham. City's set-piece defense has genuinely collapsed recently. They've conceded 3 goals from corners in their last 5 matches.
And it's their system, right? The zonal marking looks suspect.
It looks very suspect when it's tested with aggressive movement. And Fulham's strengths line up perfectly against that weakness.
They're built for it.
A quarter, 25% of their goals come from set pieces. They have real aerial threats in Joachim Andersen and Calvin Bassey. But the tactical element is Sasa Lukic. He leads the Premier League in fouls won.
So he can create those dead ball situations in dangerous areas?
Consistently. High-quality delivery opportunities straight into City's biggest weak spot right now. It just turns City's possession into potential chaos for them.
And finally, the 4th point of the blueprint. This is less about tactics and more about psychology. Make Bernd Leno the hero.
This part just acknowledges reality. Even if you execute the plan perfectly, City are still going to get chances. And Leno's personal history here is, well, it's uncomfortable.
He's never beaten them, has he?
Never. He's 0-12 against City in his career, with 34 goals conceded.
So what does the blueprint demand from him?
It's simple, but it's brutal. He has to absorb pressure. He needs to organize that compact block to limit City to low percentage shots from distance. And then he just has to rely on his shot stopping.
He needs to have one of those games.
He has to pull off 3 or 4 genuine match-winning saves. He has to be the difference maker.
So we've laid out this detailed, data-driven blueprint for an upset. It's all based on the structural weakness without Rodri, but now we need the crucial, sobering counterpoint.
Mhm.
Before we all get carried away, why might City just prevail anyway?
Because
Mm.
it's still Manchester City.
Mm.
And history, psychological weight, and just pure concentrated genius are all overwhelmingly stacked against Fulham.
Let's start with the player who needs no introduction, the unstoppable force.
Erling Haaland. You can have the most perfect plan, the most compact defense, and he can destroy it all in 10 minutes. His record against Fulham is devastating. 6 goals in 6 games.
Including that 37-minute hat-trick last year.
A monster of efficiency.
Mhm.
And he's 1 goal away from becoming the fastest player ever to reach 100 Premier League goals. That kind of motivation just overrides tactics sometimes.
And then there's the other immovable object, the man overseeing it all, Pep Guardiola.
Pep's record against the Cottagers is immaculate. 18 wins from 18 matches.
Perfect.
A perfect record. That's a psychological anvil sitting on the shoulders of those Fulham players.
Yeah.
Even when his team has been rotated or compromised, Pep finds a way against this specific opponent. That belief is infectious.
And beyond those two giants, the simple reality is the squad depth. It's just overwhelming. If the counters don't work, what are City's alternatives?
The quality is just staggering. I mean, look at the flanks. Phil Foden is in superb form. His ability to drift inside can unlock the tightest defense. And more critically, Jeremy Doku's raw pace will test Kenny Tate all afternoon.
If he can isolate him 1v1.
He can break the entire defensive shape, forcing other defenders to shift over and opening up the exact central space Fulham is trying to protect. If Fulham slips up for just 5 minutes, City has the quality to punish them over and over again.
The bookmakers, history, it all leans towards City. They're still 64% favorites. Fulham haven't beaten them since 2009.
The historical narrative is clear, but what this deep dive has shown is this unique, measurable confluence of factors right now in this specific moment.
It really is the perfect storm, isn't it? A structural weakness meeting an optimal strategy.
Exactly.
City is demonstrably weaker without Rodri. Their counterattack is fragile. Their away form is average. And Fulham is, on paper, perfectly designed to exploit those exact flaws with their compactness, their transition speed, and their set-piece threat.
The blueprint is solid. The data absolutely supports the possibility of an upset. But whether Marco Silva's team has the focus and the psychological strength to execute it against the greatest domestic dynasty in modern history, that's the ultimate question.
So here's the final provocative thought for you to carry into this match. History, 18 losses in a row, 18 straight wins for Pep, it all screams no. It says an upset is impossible, but the current measurable systemic data reveals a clear, exploitable vulnerability in Manchester City. So when does a statistically proven structural weakness finally override an opponent's immaculate historical record? That is the fascinating high-stakes tension at the heart of this deep dive.